Hello students, and welcome to the video about your final portfolio. Congratulations on coming to the very end of English 219. So here you see the required contents for your portfolio. There are several bullet points on this screen and I will go through each of them, and in the remainder of this video I will talk about some of these items. The first item listed here is your bio and personal statement. You will have been working on this in the last week of class, posting a version of it in the discussion board and receiving feedback from your peers. I'll return to this briefly in a moment. The next item you need to include in your portfolio is your resume. This is also something that you have worked on at the end of the semester. You also need to be sure that you include your 3 major projects on their own pages in the left-hand sidebar of your Google site or your Weebly site, whatever you've used to create your portfolio site. These should already be there, so this shouldn't be anything you need to worry about. You also need to include all of the project reflection documents for each project. Now, as I reminded you earlier in the term, you need to make sure that for each of the major projects you did a reflective document and included it on the page where you hosted your project. The next thing that you need to make sure the portfolio contains is a reflection on each of the 9 student learning outcomes. These are the slow reflections. These will be included in the associated items in the left-hand sidebar of your website. There should be 9 items and you should include the revised reflections for each of those in their designated areas. You also need to include a 2-page reflective memorandum. This is roughly 500 words long, and it will be linked on the home page or the landing page of your main portfolio website. Now, this is discussed in the portfolio prompt, which is available in the assignments item on the left-hand sidebar of your Learn site. This is the main culmination of all of the work this semester, the portfolio, and this 2-page, or actually it's a 4-page assignment prompt will guide you through everything that needs to be in there, and I'm reiterating it in this video, and the 2-page reflective memo is discussed at length in that prompt. Also mentioned in that prompt is a 2-minute screencast video that you can elect to include. This would be an additional multimodal enhancement to your portfolio that is discussed in the prompt. Now, this item and the item above, the memorandum, I don't discuss at length in this video, but they are discussed very carefully in that portfolio prompt. And the final item I want to mention here is design and mechanics. This is also mentioned in the prompt. Design concerns how engaging your website is to a user. In mechanics are all of the grammatical, syntactical, punctuation, spelling items that must be perfect throughout your whole portfolio. Now, I've referred to the portfolio prompt. Here I'm showing it on the screen. I'm just going to quickly show it to you in this video. This is the first page of the portfolio assignment. It gives you an overview, and then it starts to go into the specific details of what must be included in your portfolio. The major projects, the project reflections, the slow reflections, the reflective memorandum, the optional portfolio video, the bio personal statement, and I mentioned all of these things in the previous slides, but they're reiterated and elaborated upon in the prompt for the portfolio. So be sure that you look at that. And also on the 3rd page of the portfolio prompt is a reiteration of the outcomes for the class, which you certainly all know and know well at this point. And also you'll want to pay careful attention to this prompt because it talks to you carefully about who the audience is for the portfolio and all of the written additional documents that you need to create for the portfolio, such as the bio personal statement, the 2-page reflective memo, the video, and it gives you more information about what the purpose of all of those additional items is. So now I'm going to give you a bit more information on some of the other items that must be included in the portfolio that I've already introduced in the video, and I'm going to provide some more detail on. The bio personal statement. You will be working on this at the end of the semester. As you can see on this slide, I have page 133 from your textbook, and it talks about this microgenre of the bio and personal statement, and it has an example from an actual website, from an architect's website. So this is a genre that occurs in the real world, often in a web context, where people talk about themselves, perhaps on an about page. There's some strategies about writing this that are listed on that page. Now, as I said, you worked on this in the discussion board and you would have received feedback from your peers. After receiving that feedback, please revise the bio and personal statement before you put a final version up on your website's landing page. The other item you worked on at the end of the class was your resume. Of course, this is a genre that is very ubiquitous in technical and professional communication or in workplace writing. This is a document that you need to prepare before you can enter the workforce. So you worked on this at the end of the semester also. The example that I'm showing you on the screen is from Chapter 5. This is actually from page 103, and this is a chronological resume. This is the style that I recommend that you all use because most of you will be currently receiving your education and you won't have as much applicable work experience. So this version foregrounds the educational experience and puts the work experience second. I would also note that you can add an additional section under educational background that includes a section for related coursework, where you list the classes that you've taken that are suited to the job that you are pursuing. So you also posted the resume to the discussion board and received feedback from peers. So before you polish it up and post your final version to your website, be sure that you revise. I've noted here that embedding a PDF is best, or including a link on the page. I do recommend that you save your resume as a PDF, whichever way you share it on the website. Next, we have projects 1, 2, and 3 and the associated project reflections. Be sure that all of these projects are included in the designated areas on the left of your web page for projects 1, 2, and 3. And each of those projects had their own reflections. Now, these were about the choices that you made, the decisions that you made, how it turned out. In the prompt for each of the assignments, I gave you particular aspects that you needed to discuss in the project reflection. Next, on your website, you need to have items for all of the student learning outcomes. You've written about these in the discussion board, and you are then supposed to include them in your website as well. Now that the semester is coming to a close, I want you to go through all 9 of those slow reflection paragraphs that you've written and revise them. Revise them grammatically and revise them conceptually. Make sure that what you're saying there about how you learned the outcomes in the class truly do reflect your learning at the end of the term time. So I am including on the screen here, as you're reading through the content, as you pause this video, please read through the slow titles below and be sure that you've addressed all of them. Now finally, I will be assessing your portfolio in regard to its design and mechanics. So it's best if you massage or adapt the template for the site that you used to make sure that color contrast and color usage and text, size, typeface, spacing, alignment, use of images, all of that is done in a harmonious and effective and user-oriented way. As I say here, you want to be sure that those design aspects enhance your readers' or viewers' experience of your portfolio. It should be designed in a way that makes me or anybody else want to read it. Also, you need to make sure that your grammar, punctuation, spelling, all of those things are correct in all of the text that I encounter anywhere on your website, whether that's in an assignment or in the reflections or in any other wording, headings, etc. that I find on the page. So now I'm going to show you a few examples of websites of 219 students. I've anonymized all of these so they don't have names on them. This is a landing page of the Google site, and as you can see, it's got some placeholder content which says delete this instructional text. This is on the landing page. This is where you would put your bio or personal statement. Once you've revised it, you can just include it right there on the home page. You'll see that there's a subpage 1 listed that says reflective memo. You can change that wording to say resume, and you can link your resume right there. Or if you have the know-how, you can, instead of having a subpage, just embed the PDF of the resume right there. As an additional alternative, you could have an item for resume in the navigation bar on the left-hand side but probably that's the least preferred of those three options that I just listed. Now you see that on the sidebar, all 9 of our slows are listed here under navigation, as are the projects, the numbers. They're listed there as well. Now on this student's page for project planning, you can see that I have that page open here, project planning. Unfortunately, the student misspelled planning in the header. This is what I'm talking about when I say make sure to go through your website with a fine-tooth comb and make sure that all of your spelling and grammar and mechanics, all of that is all correct. Now the student misspelled planning there, but spelled it correctly the second time the heading is used. But this is a really good job on a reflection concerning this slow. It's probably hard for you to read in the video, but the student talks about the textbook and talks about specifically how the student used this concept when working on the second project. Now, when it comes time to revise this for the final submission, the student could talk about project planning as it applied to all of the projects if the student wished. Here's another student's example, again with the student's name taken off. This is basically the same template, but the color is different. This is very simple. Again, the student would replace this placeholder content with the bio and would include as a subpage the resume, or would embed the resume. So this is, I'm just showing you this. It's the same template as the previous one, but just different color usage. There's a lot of things you can do to adjust these Google Sites. You might want to watch a YouTube video or two to see how you can personalize the Google template to make it more visually interesting. Again, though, this one is clean and correct. It's not the most visually interesting thing in the world, but it is clean and correct. Now we have this student. You can see the written communication slow is considered here. You can see that I have it clicked open from the left-hand sidebar, but this student didn't embed the reflection itself on the page as HTML, but included it as a downloadable docx file. That is fine. I'm glad that the reflection is included, the slow reflection, but it is not as ideal as if it was included as HTML on the page. So you're going to need to have the slow reflections for each of the 9 slows listed in the sidebar, as well as project reflections included on the same page as the project. If we were to click on project 1, the student's project 1 video would be there, as well as a document linked, as is shown here on the slow reflection, where I would get the project reflection. So hopefully this all made sense to you as you bring your final portfolio together. And thank you for watching. Write to me if you have any questions at all.